So a bit of an odd start to the video. Basically what happened was I spent all day Saturday stripping down the offside of the front suspension. I did a little video on that as I was stripping it down and various bits and bobs. The plan then was to strip this side the next day and obviously have a video to upload. However, when I came to upload the videos and sort it all out, I hadn't got the first video somehow. I don't quite know what happened. So basically I lost that. So I've got the second part of the video, which I'll put on in just a second, but I just wanted a bit of background basically, so it wasn't just straight into a video that made no sense. So basically I started with this, which as you can imagine is rusty, what you can see. I went around everything, as you can probably see, and gave everything a little wire brush and a WD-40, trying to help with a few of the split pins and things like that. So I want to get the subframe stripped as far down as possible, component form, and then obviously we can get it all sent away for blasting and powder coating, start to get it built back up. Bit of a lockdown project. So what I'll do, I will now cut to the second part of the first side, if that makes sense. So you'll get to see where I got up to on Saturday. I'll put that video in here, and then when we come back from that, I'll be on this side, and obviously I'll have started to strip this side and we'll go through this side together. So yeah, let's crack on and get that video going and get working. So that's the results of today's work. It's been a couple of hours. Things went a little slower than I thought they would, mainly due to the fact that everything was a castellated nut with a split pin, and obviously the split pins have been in there quite a long time, so it took a little bit of doing to get those out. But aside from that and a few seized bolts I wanted, a bit of wire brush and WD-40, there's nothing that's been a major pain, to be honest. Even the main lower shaft that holds the bottom wishbone on came out perfectly, to be honest. So this side's pretty much stripped suspension wise. There's nothing else on there. The anti-roll bar's still attached at the other end, but yeah, this side's pretty much done. That side I've not even touched. As I said before, I want to get one side done before I do the other. I'm taking lots of photos as I go along, and obviously I can refer to these videos. The amount of stuff that came out of this subframe is insane, all that. So yeah, it's getting ready. Pretty much everything there is scrap. The old spring, the old shock, the old ball joints, the old disc, old wheel bearings. I've laid things out here, and I'll bag all these up tonight before I sweep up and pack up. So we've got like top arm pivots with the shims set up where they were, the top ball joint bolts and shims. So I'll bag all those up so I know where the shims came out from. That's the lower shock absorber stuff. That's steering arm bolts, one of the bump stops. That's the top ball joint bolt. They're the bolts for obviously the V-mount, and they're all the shock absorber bolts. Now, a lot of these will be getting cleaned and replated, all the nylocks will be getting replaced obviously, but I don't really want to throw that much away until I know what's what. There's no point, and knowing my luck, I'll throw something away I need. So I've tried to keep putting bolts back in where they came out from. Anti-roll bar bolt, bottom arm bolts all back in. I need to press these out. Obviously they're dead, and then they're ready to go for blasting and powder coating. I've taken all these off. I'm going to leave the stub axle in, I think. When I get it powder coated, I'll just get them to mask it all up. But the reason I've obviously undone that bolt is because I don't want that that nut. It's because I don't want that nut powder coated. So I think I might have to knock out the centre of that, or press it out. The later sealed for life ball joints that I'm contemplating using, I seem to remember on XJ6s at least, don't fit through there. So I think I might need to remove that. I need to press the bottom bushers out of the bottom arms. I need to press the wheel bearings out, and I need to remove that. But yeah, we're getting there. So next job now really for tonight is to tidy all the bolts up, bag everything up, label everything up, get rid of all the scrap, sweep up, tidy up, and then call it a night. And tomorrow will be repeat the process, but on the other side. This will all be one video, so although I say tomorrow, it'll all get uploaded as one video, so there should be a bit of a pause here, and then you'll see me coming outside and working on the other side. So yeah, more soon. So the first bit of this side is going to be to remove the actual hub and the disc. To do this, you have to remove the cap, which sits over the top of it. There's a castellated nut behind there and a split pin, which sets the tension on the wheel bearing. You just have to get something behind it and give it a light tap. The cap will then pop off and you'll see the split pin and the castellated nut behind it. Once you've taken the split pin out and the castellated nut off, this whole assembly slides off, and I'll show you that in just a sec. So that's the cap taken off, and as you can see, it's the split pin and the castellated nut. Some of the split pins have been an absolute pain. If you look at things like that, you know, that's just going to take some real removing, but the wheel bearing ones seem really good. Obviously being caked in grease has certainly helped. I've had no issues with these so far, so that should just come straight out. Right, so that's the castellated nut and the split pin out. As I thought they came out really easily, and then literally this will just move off, you see, and then we need to keep not the needle roller part, but the washer that's behind it. So we'll keep that, and then as you can see, that's all off. So that will literally, with a bit of wriggling, pull straight off. And there we go. So there's that assembly. I don't need to worry too much about that because I do plan on converting this car to wire wheels. So it'll basically need a few bits and bobs replacing. Obviously everything else I'm keeping. I'm just trying to figure out what's needed in regards to the splined hubs and different bearings and things like that. But as you can see, it now gives us access to the bracket that holds, these two hold the steering arm on. These two are basically just part of the caliper bracket, so we'll get those off next. And then it's on to things like the track control arm, the remainder of the brake pipe, and then we can think about getting the actual assembly off and working his way inward. As with the other side, everything needs to be labelled, everything needs to be bagged, keep everything safe and together until I can clean it up, replace it, repair it, whichever's needed, and get it reassembled. So yeah, next thing, caliper bracket, top and bottom ball joints. So with those four removed, obviously the steering arm is now free, and then this bracket holds the caliper on, basically your caliper carrier, and that's now free. So that's in the pile of stuff to be powder coated, and we're on to the next bit. So things like that castellated nut are going to be an absolute pain, but we'll get to it. So next I think is the top ball joint, so we can move this out and then we'll be able to get to the bottom ball joint bolt a bit better. They're 9/16 I believe, 5/8 maybe, no 9/16. So I'll get those off and we'll be able to move the stub axle out and start figuring out the bottom ball joint. Yeah, so far so good. So that's the top ball joint out. Again, paying particular attention to where the shims go. Towards the back of the car, towards the front of the car. There towards the back of the car, there towards the front of the car. So that's that out. And then start to clean up the bottom ball joint bolt to get that out. And obviously that will then free this whole upright and stub axle. And away we go. So that's the upright with both ball joints taken off. I'll take the ball joints out later, and I'll also slacken that bolt off, that nut off, sorry, I keep saying bolt, same as I did on the other one. But for now that's okay. We'll crack on with the major bits. So next is either the upper arms or the lower arms, I can't really decide. I'll decide in a minute. We'll figure it one way or another. So that's one side of the upper wishbone off. There it is. It would have fit on like that onto there. It has a bolt going through it for the upper bump stop with like a spacer in the middle, and then a thick washer either side of that to space it out. Obviously, as you can see, they all need pressing out. They're gone. There's the bolt. The spacer like fits between the arm. You can see it on that side there, just in there. So that's one side. Do the other side. We'll get this bracket off, split the old bump stop off it. That'll all want replacing, and that's basically the top done. Then I'll get the main lower bump stop off. Then we can start thinking about the lower wishbone spring pan. Don't know if I get onto the steering assembly tonight. Possibly, possibly not. We'll see how we get on. But yeah, so far, as for the other side, everything apart from the split pins are coming to pieces really well. I'm having to be a bit vicious with some of the split pins. It is what it is. They weren't coming out, so things like that. I've knocked, if I can get it to focus, I've knocked the edges off the split pin. You can see where it used to fit, just there. I'll put them in pillar drill and I'll drill them out properly, and then we'll run a tap down every thread before it goes, well, before it goes to powder coating, just make sure it's right, and then we know it's good for putting back together. So yeah, on to the next one. So that's the bump stop mount off. This is ready to come off. Well, I say ready to come off, it's not. It's just the next thing to come off. I've undone the part of the steering system, like the idler, the bit with the bump stops in it and everything. I've undone that from the subframe. That all came out really well. And I've done that so I can tap the lower shaft out. So on the other side, I undid the front bolt and I tapped the whole shaft through and then took the other pin out afterwards, and it obviously made the whole lower assembly drop down. As I mentioned before, there's no tension on these springs, so that all should drop down, and I can take the spring pan off and everything else off separately from the bottom. And like this plate, I did it slightly differently on the other side, but this just seems to make more sense. So the next job is undo that, tap it through. This should all drop down. It'll be held in place with one nut on the shock absorber, which I'll take off. The spring can go for scrap. Shock absorber will go for scrap anyway, but the little bracket needs separating from the spring pan, and so on. And then aside from that mount and the top wishbone and the V mount, which is dead, this side will again be pretty much done. So we're not far off actually, making good progress tonight. So yeah, as you can see, we're really onto it now. Spring's out. Had to unfortunately cut the nut off the top of the shock absorber. It just started spinning. Couldn't get to stop it spinning anywhere, so unfortunately that had to be removed like that. But it's one of those things. Shock absorbers are obviously getting replaced anyway. So that's pretty much the bottom wishbone off. It's still connected to anti-roll bar, which is not actually connected to anything on that side, but we'll get that taken off in a second. And then what have we got left? We've got the V mount, the top arm, and the steering box still connected, and then I believe the subframe's pretty much bare, so I think we'll get down to a bare subframe tonight. And the same with the other side, as you saw in the other video. The amount of crap just coming out of this subframe is incredible. But we'll get all of that sorted out when it gets blasted and powder coated. So yeah, next job is disconnect the anti-roll bar, shock absorber off, spring plate off, and the plate for the bump stop off as well. So now that it's off altogether, I've taken the spring pan out, which is just a series of 9/16 bolts. Now we're on to this is the actual spring pan itself, obviously upside down. I've taken the anti-roll bar out, which is there. I need to take the drop links off it. Next is the actual shock absorber bracket. This has got little tabs. I don't know if you can see. There, 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 and there. They all want tapping down, so you can get your socket on, which are a pain really, because as you can see it's just a rusty mess. So we'll tap those down, get that off, separate the separate the shock absorber mount from the bottom of the shock absorber, which is that nut and bolt there. Shock absorber can go in bin, and then we're back onto the subframe. Really not a lot left to do on that. chuffed. It's coming together quite quickly, so should have a massive pile of powder coating bits. You can probably see it background there. There's a load of bits ready to get painted and cleaned and everything back there. So yeah, it's coming along actually. Might need another lockdown project, but we've still got the engine and gearbox to sort out, and I've still got the motorbike to build, and there's other stuff to do. So I'll not run out, that's for sure. So right, yeah, shock absorber mount. So I've skipped a couple of steps there, kind of got a bit involved and forgot to keep recording, but that is the subframe completely stripped. So there's nothing else on that subframe that needs removing before it can go for powder coat. It is just a completely bare subframe now. So there is other things left to do still. The drop links need taking out, the anti-roll bar. All the bushes need pressing out. I've got a 10-ton press, so I can do that. I did it on these. Just pressed all those out, so they're all ready to go already. So I'll do it on those ones, but not tonight. There's not much to be said for a video of just watching me press some bushes out. So, and then I've still got the ball joints to take off that, and the breakers to take off that. But it's enough for one night. We've got the subframe done, stripped down to nothing, so I'm happy with that. And same as last time, it's now time to bag everything up, label everything up. My wife's been writing a load of labels out for me and sorting all that out, so we'll get all that done and tidied away and everything, and we'll get swept up, and that's it for tonight. So yeah, I'll leave it here. Again, there's no need for me to be doing a video of me sweeping floor or tidying some bolts up. So that's it for now with the front subframe, and the next video actually might be a few weeks away, because I need to send all this off for blasting and powder coating. So I'm kind of at the mercy of if any powder coating places are open and so on. So it might be a few weeks away, and I'll do an unboxing of the powder coated parts. So thank you very much for watching. Sorry it's been a bit of a fragmented video. I don't know what happened to that first one. My phone just decided to not record it. So don't forget to like and subscribe, comment down below, hints, tips, what you think I'm doing right, what you think I'm doing wrong, and I'll see you next time. Thank you very much.